excited to be here today to speak with you about adult education and CJE's role in our community as it relates to adult education. I'd like to just start off with a brief quote that comes from the Talmud, Tractate Shabbat, which says, "The older scholars become, the more wisdom they acquire." And I'd also like to just remind all of you, who may already be very familiar with this fact, but Rabbi Akiba did not begin studying until he was 40 years old. And he has been acclaimed as one of, if not the greatest scholars of his era. So adult education is incredibly important, and I know we are speaking to the choir, to everybody around this table, and yet it is our responsibility to make a case for adult education. What we'd like to do with you today is share a little bit of insight into the adult Jewish community, what it looks like, what CJE's current role in adult education is, and some potential roles that CJE might consider going forward as you plan in your strategic meeting in the upcoming weeks, and consider the direction that CJE will go in as we go on. And then we would welcome questions and provide some answers as we finish our presentation. Also, just to let you know that the statistics and data that we're sharing today, some of it is gleaned through the community statistics, and then others have been put together by our own experiences and results through CJE.
Okay, so what I'm going to talk about is, what does the Jewish community of the Greater Palm Beaches look like? And one of the things that I'd like to particularly point out is that we're, the highest percentage is the age group of 75 plus. And keep in mind throughout this presentation, the 50 to 64 and the 35 to 49 age groups. As we go along, this might help vision with us the programs that we're suggesting. So based on the 2005 Jewish Federation Demographic Study, there are 115,000 Jews in the community. 18% of those households are here anywhere between 3 and 7 months a year. All the rest are considered full-time residents. And out of that number, only 3% are familiar with the CJE. That was based on the 2005 statistic. 19% of the Jewish adults in our area say they participate in some kind of Jewish education. So once again, look at the two age groups that I mentioned. So you'll see the ages and keep that in mind.
So are all of these statistics from that 2005?
Most of them are, yes.
That's really old.
That's really
so
old.
But there's not another demographic study from the Jewish Federation that we have more updated numbers.
Don't you think it's time?
Communities around the country are dealing with the same problem and running it, because it used to be every 10 years communities would do a new population study to answer these very questions. The problem is that they're very expensive. They can run anywhere between $200,000 and $400,000.
Wow.
And that's for mid-sized communities. For larger communities like this, it can be even more. It depends on how you use the information, how you get the information, and communities are struggling with the cost-benefit analysis of, okay, we're going to spend this money. Is it really going to change fundamentally our perspective or our awareness of the community? So I think we still know that we're an aging community, and we have a significant population over 50 that dwarfs the population under 30. So I think a lot of the statistics, while outdated, haven't changed so drastically that they're completely irrelevant.
What was the number again of the total Jewish population?
115,000
115.
Of adults.
of adults.
115.
Yes.
Okay.
how many were there here for a year, 3 to 7 months, you said?
18%.
So
Do we have any
20,000,
idea
just under 20.
of the whole population of Palm Beach County between, there was growth between 2005 and now? Just to sort of estimate
Extrapolate.
percentages, you know.
That's information that we can probably.
That's it,
Try
right?
and find, absolutely.
That we can get, so if it grew 5%, let's just imagine.
But
so
that would be misleading because that would include Boca, and Boca is a separate federation and a separate service
don't worry.
area.
Okay, right.
Boca,
We can see if we can get that, if we can
So
get
we
But
that.
would
at
have to
least,
get it
you
from
know,
Metropolitan West Palm.
Yeah.
It's working with really old numbers.
Yeah, I don't mean to
Your
throw
fault.
a monkey wrench into things, but we're right now dealing with people who are retiring. You've got all of these people within the last several years and moving forward who are baby boomers. So
Yes.
I would think these numbers are drastically,
Low.
gonna change dramatically with all of the retirees now moving into this area.
Well, that's
That's-
certainly
yeah, I would
not-
say you
that-
have-
would
that's
be-
a great.
that would be
wonderful.
wonderful.
Wonderful for the adult
Yeah.
education component.
That really would be wonderful. So, moving on, as you can see here, this is our community of who we're serving through our programs that we offer. And based on those 115,000, that was taken from the area of Tequesta all the way down to Boynton Beach. So just so that you have an idea of where that came from. 57% of these Jewish adults are associated with the Jewish community. What that means is they're either associated through a synagogue, through the JCC, or another Jewish organization. 30% of the Jews are members in a synagogue in Palm Beach County.
30%? I
Wow.
question that.
Yeah, I would too.
I was always told it was 18%.
I know,
Yeah.
we've always.
Yeah,
been-
we
I
and
got
the-
talked
that
about
from the
this.
And the
report.
synagogue taught, synagogue.
I got that
taught.
from the new report that Lynn showed me. But
From
that's okay,
the overall,
I'll go check it. I'll check into that.
It could be 30% of the kids,
Adults.
no, of the kids, you know, who want to, you know, bar mitzvah age or enroll, and not the retired people.
And then, and then 82% are full-time residents. So when we're addressing, this statistic stood out to me, because while we're addressing adult education, we plan a lot around our snowbirds, but maybe we need to start looking into people that are here all year round and to start exploring that a little bit more.
I suspect that the percentage of snowbirds is down. That the
really?
community, yeah, I would guess. I don't live on Palm Beach Gardens, so I don't know snowbirds in Outlet.
I just remember Amy, in her presentation, gave us statistics, remember?
yes.
Yeah, I don't think they were the same as yours, so
Well,
we can look back.
confirm it up.
Yeah.
Okay, so now in our community, we have CJE, FAU has 2 campuses in Boca and in Jupiter. We have gated communities in all these communities. Jewish Family Services, Jewish Federation, the JCCs, both in Boynton and in Palm Beach Gardens, and the synagogues. And the synagogues that I have listed here are marked throughout each community. Total of the synagogues, at least from the list that I got, were 30. 30 synagogues offering similar programs: Torah study, Talmud study, Hebrew, Israel education, Israeli dance, cultural programs, authors, book clubs, etc. So within those boxes there are a lot of duplication of programs. Okay, so keep that in mind as well as we go ahead. In the gated communities, many of the gated communities have Jewish heritage clubs. I don't know if any of yours have it, but Jewish heritage clubs, what they do, it used to be called the Yiddish clubs. It takes in Yiddish culture, it deals with cultural programs, they go on trips, they bring in speakers. There's a whole network of them. And each gated community, not all, but many of them, have this.
Can I ask, is that individual communities, or is there a national organization,
There
Jewish Heritage
is
Clubs?
a national organization that oversees them. I don't know if it's national or Florida, so it could be, but I have a list, and they come, they register with this main organization. So I have, the list that I have is for Boynton and Lake Worth area.
I don't think there are any in Palm Beach Gardens.
Really?
No.
Okay, I'm
They have
surprised.
Yiddish clubs and things like that.
No Yiddish clubs, no Yiddish classes,
Many years ago, there was a Yiddish club in Frenchman's Creek, and then they made them give it up. Which
Oh,
was,
that's
well,
interesting.
at that point, there were about 50% of the community were Jewish, 50% were not Jewish. Now it's, of course, totally different, so.
So being totally different, and I don't know that, do you mean that there's?
Mostly Jewish.
Mostly Jewish, okay, I didn't know that statistic. Okay, so we have so many different agencies. Many of our agencies are all offering similar types of things, similar types of programs. The problem with having similar types of programs is what happens is Synagogue A right here offers the same thing Synagogue B does. They put out this brochure, their information, and what happens? They don't get the enrollment. They have to cancel the class. But if we think about it as a community and we think about some collaboration, that may change that. Okay.
So CJE's current role in adult education, we have two programs that we provide. The first, which you're all familiar with, is Conversations with Jewish Women Writers. And the second is our Florence Melton School for Adult Jewish Learning, which I love the way that our presentation started off was with enthusiastic questions from our board members who are Melton students and graduates, because you all know the benefit of a Melton education and the impact that it's having on the people who are registered. And there is an exponential effect that it can have in the community as we engage more and more students. So we'd like to share a little bit about the development of the Melton program since we began implementing it in 2011. Tomorrow is the completion of our 4th year. Our Temple Sharei Shalom class will have its last class tomorrow. So as you can review in your packets if this is going too fast for you, but when we started in 2011, we had 4 core curriculum classes. We had one in Palm Beach, we had another 2-year, that was a 2-year class, and another 2-year class in Palm Beach Gardens, and we had 2 filled core curriculum classes for snowbirds. And in 2012, 2013, we added 2 more core curriculum classes, one in the Boynton Beach area at Temple Sharei Shalom, and a 1-hour lunch and learn in downtown at Temple Israel. And then what you'll note in 2013 and 14 is we had graduates. To our Palm Beach class and one of our Palm Beach Gardens classes, we graduated 32 students, and so we offered 2 scholars classes here centrally located to accommodate our graduates in both areas. In 2014 and 15, which is the year that we're just completing right now, we again had those 2 scholars classes. The Temple Israel class we closed due to a lack of registration, and the Snowbirds up in Palm Beach Gardens continued on, and the Temple Sharei Shalom core class continued on. Now what we're projecting in 2015-16 is 3 core classes. We are launching a new core class at Temple Emmanuel and a new core class up at Temple Beth David since our graduates completed. And we're continuing the core class at Temple Sherei Shalom in Boynton Beach. And then, and on another exciting note, we are going to be offering 4 different scholars classes around the community. The first is going to be at Sherei Shalom, which is a brand new scholars class. It's going to be the first part of the Arab-Israeli conflict, which speaks a little bit to what Charles was saying in his opening report. We are addressing Israel education for adults. Maybe not in some of the other areas, but we are doing that for our adults. And in the CJE location, we are offering Jews in America and the second part of the Arab-Israeli conflict, and a new scholars class in the Gardens to accommodate the 19 graduates that we just graduated last week. And that's going to be Bamidbar, which is about leadership as learned through the Bible and its successes and challenges. So that's very exciting as well. And this slide is going to demonstrate to you the number of students that we have been teaching through Melton through the 40 years. In 2011 and 2012, we started with 79 students. In 2012-13, we grew to 88 students, and we graduated 32 students from the core curriculum. In 13-14, when we removed a class, we had 65 students. We graduated 4. That's just happenstance for the way the courses were running. And then this year we had, again, 82 students, 23 graduates. And the top line is what we're projecting next year. And the classes I just mentioned to you with conservative projections for all of the core classes, realistic projections, because we already know 2 of our scholars classes are almost filled to capacity. We are projecting 135 students studying in 15-16, which is very exciting. And just so this doesn't come as a surprise next year at this time, our number of graduates will be very small because Sherei Shalom, I think we currently have maybe 5 or 6 students. We may not graduate anybody next year.
Because it's a
it'll be their
3-year
class.
program.
So no graduation next year. Nobody has to budget for that. But in the following year, that may be small. In the following year after that will be a very large graduation again. So we're on a 3-year cycle for our core curriculum students because of the demographics in this area. We actually do cater to a lot of snowbirds in the Gardens area as well as the Palm Beach area, which is where our heaviest population of students is. So 3 years we're thinking will work very well. 2 years was very challenging for people's travel schedules, and 4 years is what we just graduated, a little tough for people to stay for 4 years in a class. So that's the strategy going forward with Melton. Now, conversations with Jewish women writers. We have been doing conversations for 13 years. We just had our 13th conversation sessions this year, and there's been a lot of conversation about conversations and what should become of conversations. So what I'd like to share with you is some information that may help you as you discuss this going forward. In 2012, we had 136 women engaged. There was a much higher concentration in the Gardens than there was in Palm Beach, which has leveled out over the years. In 2013, we had 139 women engaged. In 2014, we had 148. And this year, because of some interestingness in the way that we've registered people, we actually had 106 women engaged. Now, conversation is the gateway. It's a community engagement tool for the agency to use as a gateway to bringing women into the CJE, whether it's through using our services or volunteering with us, becoming passionate about education and an advocate in the community, as well as fundraising. So what I'd like to share with you, we have preliminarily brought some numbers together. And what we were looking at today is we took the women who have participated in conversations in any one or more of the years that are represented here, so 12, 13, 14, and 15, and the gifts that we received in those years. So I don't currently have how many people of the people will decipher the numbers further and share those with you. But in 2012, the women who have been engaged in conversations gifted CJE $134,000. In 2013, $187,000. In 2014, $181,000. And this year, 2015, $197,000. Now, those are, we gauge our gifts by households. So it could be that the woman who participated in conversations was new to us and her husband was more engaged, or vice versa. We don't have that kind of information yet, but people who are involved in conversations are great financial supporters of this agency.
Are they involved in these years and giving in these
That's
years?
that's what we don't have yet. It's a really difficult.
So they were involved at one
In
point.
one of these 4 years or more than one of these 4 years, the women, the gifts that are accounted for, those women
Are
were.
from those women from whatever.
Whatever, right. But those are the years the gifts came in. I can't tell you what year they were registered in conversations.
All right,
If
that's
that
interesting.
Have you
simplifies it.
eliminated whether the gifts came through Melton participation?
No, they didn't necessarily come through their participation in conversations. It just supports the idea that these women who choose to come to conversations are
Already or
really
also?
supporting the agency.
Okay.
I can't tell you what came first, the chicken or the egg,
Got it.
but nonetheless, those are those ladies who are participating are strong supporters of the agency, which I think is exciting initial news to become aware of.
Mhm.
So now we're gonna talk,
Yes?
Projection for this year?
For the number of women, we are actually having a meeting next week to make some pertinent decisions about how we're structuring conversations for this coming year, the number of sessions that we're gonna have, is that gonna stay the same or change? And that'll affect potentially the number of people.
Any effect from new JCC?
From the JCC competing program, you mean?
Yes.
We really believe that last year we saw the impact of that in our numbers, and yet our gifts went up. So depending on what the goal is for conversations, and that's something to be discussed within the committees and whatnot.
I think it should have a goal of increasing the numbers, and the money will follow.
I think that's good input.
Yeah.
I think that the people who go to the JCC conversations aren't necessarily the same that come here.
You're right.
Well, because you know what, and I didn't mention this, our conversations is slightly different. We really intend to educate the women through the book and through the conversation. It deals with gender issues. They're certainly all Jewish books. They've all been written by women. It's an intimate gathering where the JCC groups are larger. And we have a moderator, her name is Shulamit Reinhardt, who has moderated the majority of the conversation sessions, who brings something to the table beyond what the author brings, which is a lot of sociological information that we wouldn't have otherwise. Even the authors are oftentimes educated by the conversation that we have together.
What is your connection to the Jewish book club, the
Book
Jewish
council?
book, no, when they have the book fair.
Yeah,
And
the
I
Jewish,
went to that this
the
year.
Jewish Book Council, what I think it's
The
called,
book
the
festival.
JBC.
Yeah.
What's that?
The book festival at the
The
JCC.
festival?
JCC?
Oh, at the JCC?
No, I went to
No,
the
in New
Kravis
York.
Center. No, I went to the Kravis Center
That's
this
the
year.
That's the
That's
JCC.
the-
We're not
that's the JCC.
affiliated with that at all. That's they have several novelties around the community. I believe they're in people's homes.
Yeah, they're right there.
And then the luncheon, you can probably share a lot more information than Penny, but the one at the Kravis Center is their like main
Yeah.
gathering of that.
That's the big one.
Fundraiser, okay.
Oh, I see.
How do you market this? Because I just have to tell you, I've lived here since 1975, and the first time I heard about it was last year.
So again, this gets back to what is the aim of conversations? Because the aim of conversations for at least the first 11 years was people waited for an invitation. It was selective. It was really focused on engaging women with capacity and inclination and to develop those relationships. And in the past 2 years that I've been involved, recruitment has been a big part of what we're doing because of the other activities, we believe, that are
Well,
similar.
Not only that, but it's been going on for 13 years, so there's a degree of attrition. And we are not really replacing some of the women who aged out or, we really lacked in publicity this past year. We had, other intentions, but if we publicized it more, we'd have to turn people away, and then we wouldn't get the women that we want to get.
I'd like
Why would you
to, Elizabeth
turn
isn't
people
hearing
away?
this conversation.
Oh, she's not?
No,
No.
she's there.
She's
Okay.
not here?
Yeah, she got cut off in the
Yeah,
middle of the
we've
presentation.
known about
We're
this.
gonna-
If there's an amount, a giving amount that's required, why would you have to turn people away as long as they
If we
offer?
over-marketed, then, last year, not this past year, but the year before, we were oversold in 2 of the 4 sessions.
You mean in terms of capacity?
Capacity,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So
I thought you were just turning people away, sorry.
No,
I don't like that.
We just had no more room,
So
and
I-
that's why we
I get
can't.
And Ellen, I think Ellen would like to say something.
Yeah, I just want to represent Elizabeth. And we've had long discussions about this. And if she were here, the main goal of conversations is to bring in money.
Yes.
And that was I would participate in another committee 3 years ago about the future of our agency. And the justification for offering this was that it raises money, and it really does. So
It's not
this
just raises
answers
money, it brings in new women, because it's for women, who were never involved before, that can give, but can also participate and, be on the board or.
Good point, yeah.
If I can just say one thing about the JCC, because I am part of that, and
Yeah.
my license plate says love to read. So I was a reading teacher, I was an English chairman in Palm Beach County. In any case, I found this year to be so confusing. I kept getting invitations, emails, come to this novelty, and go to this, and go to that. And I thought, what have I done? Because now I went to 2 things this year that I never could do before because I was working full-time and now I'm part-time. I had so much confusion over I kept calling people up or emailing and saying, which one is this? What is this for? My recommendation is just to make sure that they're very different. They really weren't.
They should be
all that
branded
different.
also.
Conversations?
Or the-
What are you
Branding is
talking about?
The meetings were not all that different. I know that you have
They're-
a moderator,
Yeah.
but
But
I
they
read the
weren't that
books.
different from what the JCC
Exactly,
ones were?
Exactly, yeah.
Maybe we could talk with
Yeah.
you a little bit more
I-
about
Yeah,
that.
because I
Yeah.
didn't
Insight.
attend the other one, so I don't
think
know.
that-
Is there any way to collaborate with JCC? I mean, my feeling is that you have
It's
locations
too
that are
much.
close, JCC is way out there, If you're not, then you don't get to go, or it's far. Okay, so what you did with the conversations is brought it a little closer
Well, no, they did the
to
same
Palm
thing.
Beach residents.
No, these were in people's houses. They were called novelties.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
No,
Yeah, they
okay.
were all
I
over
didn't
the
even realize
place.
that. Okay.
I don't wanna cut off
Let's not-
questions,
yeah,
I
we
think
were
this is a
here.
really good conversation,
Yeah,
but because
that's,
we
you
wanna
know,
get
I'll
out
be
at a
glad
certain
to
time,
talk
I
to
think.
Okay.
You know what?
Yeah.
Maybe you
Got that.
can come on Tuesday when, and we
This
can.
coming Tuesday?
Yeah.
Okay, just send me an email and let me know.
Yeah, that,
Great idea.
yeah.
Okay, so continuing on.
Exhausted from all
We
the
have
things I do.
potential for adult education roles for the CJE. And it's based on the demographics and the CJE's current role that there are identifiable gaps in which the CJE can help the community. One of them happens to be leadership development. Leadership development through a Jewish lens. A gap exists in our community for a structured leadership development through a Jewish lens program. How many of you can relate to the concept of a multi-year volunteer positions because there's no one else qualified to take your place? I know that across the board we keep hearing that. I'm on the board another year because no one could step up, no one could do what I was doing.
Across the community.
Community.
Not necessarily CJE's
Right.
board.
Right.
This is opening the door to something that I have felt about for many, many, many years, and that is we have no training for leaders or would-be leaders on how to lead, how to bring in other people, how to delegate,
And you're
how
gonna
to
love
build.
this.
You're going to love what we're going to talk
How to
about.
relate to
Oh,
people,
okay.
how to treat people.
Yes,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah.
And to treat people, lay leaders
Being part
and
of a synagogue all my
professionals.
life, I know it.
And professional.
Actually,
Exactly.
when creating this slide, it was with Jewish values in mind.
That's great.
Jewish values.
Good.
It makes a difference. So, you're not alone because it's across the community. And once again, our target audience comes into this. As our leadership is aging across the community, we need to develop new leaders. And that age group that I highlighted throughout, that age group from 35 to 64 years old, that's the group we need to also engage. But in order to engage them, we need to provide leadership development. So as you know, the Melton curriculum is developed and written at Hebrew University in Jerusalem. There is a new curriculum that is being rolled out. It was piloted last year through the federations from Melton. It was created by Dr. Erica Brown, who is a very popular, well-known author and speaker on Jewish values, on ethics, and on leadership. She has many books out there. So the agencies and the institutions and synagogues, we've indicated they need more leadership. As the educational arm of the community, the CJE is the appropriate agency to coordinate this. One of the examples, one of the many examples, because there are many different leadership programs out there. So the one that we're going to talk about in a little bit more detail is the leadership development through Jewish lens.
So in just very briefly, and again, this will be on the slides that you have to take home, some of what Rabbi Pinsky and Cindy were mentioning. There are 8 two-hour modules to this leadership program, and some of the things that it addresses are your personal journey to leadership, the difference between power and influence, growing from failure, mentoring and growing others, nurturing vision, effective change management, inspired communication, and as Cindy was saying, creating a leadership pipeline. These are all well-considered elements to a solid leadership development program, one worthy of considering, and because we implement Melton in our community, this curriculum would be available to us for implementation in the area. So some next steps that we are suggesting is that we, CJE, if it's determined that this is a path we'd like to go down, that we should engage the other institutions and synagogue leadership in dialogue about their needs for leadership development. And we should research some of the other leadership programs out there and weigh it in comparison with the Melton program that is brand new that we're just introducing to you. And then create a plan to implement this, certainly not in the upcoming year because we have a lot on our Melton plate and we have a lot on our agency plate with the 25th anniversary, but something visioning going forward. And then in addition to marketing through the synagogues and the partner agencies, there are likely unaffiliated Jews in our community that are looking to develop themselves as leaders. Okay.
So, the additional potential roles for the CJE.
I guess this is going to end our presentation for today. We do have more to share with you, and it's in your pamphlets, and we're happy to share.
Talk at any other time.
Yeah, can I just throw two things, as I'm listening to this, and it's wonderful and very well done. First of all, I think that's wonderful about leadership development. I just got an email from my synagogue. I'm retired now almost 2 years, and looking at the new board members, knowing that most of them have no concept of leadership or concept of what the synagogue does. And they're happy to have warm bodies. Some of them are very good, by the way, but don't really have any background. But as I'm listening to what you're saying, the Melton program is superb. It's the best. And the women's book conversations is the best. But they're almost totally or largely directed towards women. The problem, one of the problems in the Jewish community is not engaging women, which is always a problem. It's now engaging men, and it's a very serious problem in the Jewish community today. It's in the rabbinate, it's in the cantorate, it's in the officers. Not to say that the women can't do it, they can. They're better than the men. But re-engaging men, and I think that's something that it's a long term.
I think that's and Melton is absolutely
I know
for all.
But I looked at the
We
picture
just
and
engage
I looked at the picture and knew who they were. And the other is and again because it's part of where I come from in Wellington, which is a very underserved community, it might be one of the only communities where that the middle-aged group, the 35 to 50 or 60, might be the majority of the members. And we're not, we're going after people who are younger than I am, but
Friedman CJE
who are older. Somewhere along the line, we have to try to find that middle group. They're very hard to get. I don't say that you've not done
And it's also the timing of when you
very,
have the
very,
classes.
I understand that, but
And at yesterday's
Absolutely, no, you're
taste,
right.
we had a lot of women asking if the classes were in the evening. So that's something for discussion
Right.
going forward
So
as
just
well.
sort of
When
throw
I
that out.
tell you
It's-
at least